Welcome back to another amazing interview. I am here with Amy Lionheart, our week one winner, as well as one of our finalists for the Queen of the Hill series Soul Calibur edition. How are you doing today, Amy?
I'm feeling pretty good. How about you?
I'm good. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you did win that first week that we had for our Soul Calibur series. How does it feel? Um, and go right ahead.
It feels pretty amazing. I haven't played in like a tournament setting for a while. I was pretty surprised that I was able to win it. But it was very, very good because everybody played so well. And I'm just a Soul Calibur competitive player, at least when I try to be. Um, it's been kind of like off and on, but I'm very competitive when it comes to that game. So um, it's still really there, to be honest.
That makes sense. So I've noticed, kind of like knowing you a little bit, especially when I've kind of like first entered the FGC, that you're a really amazing Ivy player. Tell us a little bit about how you've fallen in love with that character. How long have you been playing in Soul Calibur, and just how long in general have you been in the FGC?
Well, I started playing Caliber probably like when I was, maybe about 11 years old or 12. I grew up around my brother and his friends. So I was in an environment where a lot of them would play games, go outside. I sort of geared towards more like video games, wrestling, etc., like that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we played Soul Calibur. Like everybody remembers playing Soul Calibur 2. That was the game that like the most iconic, one of the most iconic games. And I saw Ivy, but I never really noticed like what she really was. You know what I'm saying? Like when I saw her, I just was completely attracted to like her weapon, especially because it's like a whip blade.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like have the competitive mindset when I was younger, but as the time went on, I started playing Soul Calibur 3, and then I went to 4, and then 5, and then 6. When you're young, you don't really understand the game thoroughly, but then when you get older and you start realizing that this game can actually get really competitive, you start taking it more seriously. So I began taking it competitively, like around the end of Soul Calibur 5. So
Wow. So, um, when you say like Soul Calibur 5, that includes like offline, right? You were getting into offline majors and events like that?
oh, no, 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 no. I started playing offline with 6. But the
Okay.
competitive mindset in terms of me wanting to get better at the game, in terms of me joining like Facebook groups, um, going to FGC Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
even having that specific competitive mindset is what started by the end of 5 because I started taking it more seriously and I started like, wow, I actually really like this game. But I started playing offline when 6 came out, like the day of. Um, yeah, the day of when it
Okay.
came out.
There was this one combo, and this was in the first week. We had Clyde and we had Kiki commentating, right? And there
Mhm.
was this one combo that I remember they were talking about that you did. I think it was probably maybe in finals, if I'm not mistaken, where you did like probably one of the most difficult Ivy combos.
Not Team 4B beat you.
I'm surprised she's not punishing these boys. That was twice now, but she's able to keep that momentum
Oh,
after in.
here comes the wall combo. Ooh, she's going for the difficult, complicated one. Is she gonna land it? Yes.
And one of the things that I remember Clyde mentioned is that you're the type of person to really share as much tech as possible. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, how sharing tech has helped kind of you grow as a competitor, and also as helping grow as the community as well.
Sure thing. I I started obviously labbing on my own, but then the more that I felt a little bit more comfortable in the FGC, I started to share that tech. I wanted to educate myself. I'm a perfectionist,
Mm-hmm.
so aside from me doing art, I found labbing and finding things and sharing and correcting to be another type of hobby, I guess. Um, I just got super hooked on it. And I'm a person that likes to share it because it could help somebody. And I guess my opinion on it is um, I don't really have a I'm trying to find the word. I'm not concerned about people finding out things against my character, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
People will always lab your character regardless, and anything that you do in a tournament or any type of stream or anything that's shared, people are gonna see how you play regardless. So I'm just like, I mean, whatever. Like, here's some Ivy Tech. I've done anti Ivy Tech as well, but it's mainly with her. She's just like so natural to me. So yeah, that's what I started doing a lot.
So I know you mentioned that you just kind of like got into the full competitive drive, especially with Soul Calibur 6, where you kind of went through offline and online. What is like your favorite memory in at like offline events? What's your experience offline? If you can tell me a little bit about that.
Sure, sure. I believe my first offline event was ECT, East Coast Throwdown, back in 20 2018, 2019 when the game came out. It's an East Coast like big event, and they had Caliber there aside from other games. And I went there with one of my best friends, and it was a really great experience. It like opened my eyes to be like, wow, you're like in a room with people that actually really love the game like you do and have this like finesse with it and have this technical eye with it. I found the experience to be really wholesome. I believe one of the first players that I've met was Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
Super welcoming dude. I've seen a lot of the other players. I believe Sonic Fox was also there, competing for I forgot which game. I think no, he was in Soul Calibur as well. But there was a lot of top players, and it was a great experience. I will never forget that event. It was just really nice. It made me like forget about all the troubles in my life, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I feel like that's one of the big things that unfortunately the pandemic has kind of like taken away from us. It's just like that was like a space that we could literally go and just be ourselves as like the fighting game community, right? And with that kind of like taken away and everything kind of moving online, there's not really a good space to really be that way. And it's kind of like that hobby that you can't really do until it can come back.
Yep.
ECT, what other offlines have you been to, if I can ask?
Oh, sure. I haven't been to a lot as much as I would want to because I was at a time of my life where I was pursuing something else.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I went to ECT. I went to there was one in Connecticut. I forgot the name of it. It
That's
was like a
okay.
local. And then I went to Evo 2019, and then I went to oh man, it's been so long. I went to another one in Connecticut. It was a small local, very, very, very small. But it hasn't been really as much as I wanted to. But the best one, the biggest one was Evo. That was my first Evo. That was my first time like flying.
Mm-hmm.
So
What was
I
like
would just
your
say,
reaction? Like, what was your experience when you got there? Was it like super overwhelming? I imagine so, right?
yeah, Evo was kind of in a lot of people, but it was so nice because I was able to meet a lot of my mutuals that I know online. I was able to see people be passionate about other games. Like everybody would go watch this game, then everybody would go watch this game, and it was a very, very fun experience. Like I would say, yeah, it's like one of the best times. Unfortunately, uh, with the pandemic, we can't have those like you said, we can't have those like connections, that fellowship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was great. I I can't describe it enough. It was awesome.
Uh,
So
so before the pandemic went into like full effect and before we went into like full lockdown, did you have like any goals or any events that you really wanted to go to that you weren't able to go? So we're talking about like 2020.
Mhm.
I think this was right before Combo Breaker. Did you have like any plans of any of the tournaments that you wanted to enter at that time?
Oh yes, for sure. I believe I had my flight set for I believe it was final round.
Mm-hmm.
That was around the month where COVID hit pretty hard, and then they had to cancel the event in 2020. But I was going to go to that major. I heard really good things about it, so I definitely like booked when I could, and I was planning to go with the same friends that I went before. Um, so that was something that I had said, and I did want to also go to Combo Breaker because I've heard really good things about that major as well. Um, but unfortunately, with the pandemic, like we had to cancel the flights, and it was a process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just all of those events. I remember probably let's see, it was around April, maybe April or in March that like everything was starting to shut down. Everybody was freaking out because they had flights that they couldn't get refunds for, and they had like payments that they couldn't get refund. I know a lot of TOs too were like, do we stay open? Do we don't stay open? Like, what are we doing? What is going on? What is the local guidelines? And I just know that like 2020 early pandemic were like probably best way to put it, pure hell for the FGC, because there was nothing really like we could do except just start canceling and just kind of like, okay, what's plan B? Did we even have a plan B? And of course competitors too, they I'm sure when you found out that like the offline scene itself was kind of like shutting down because of the pandemic and everybody was moving online, I'm sure you're like, oh my god, Soul Calibur with its netcode, with the way the community is, like what is gonna happen to us? Like, do you remember those days by chance?
Yeah, it was scary. I mean, Soul Calibur is a really tight knit community. It's very small. I kind of like to not compare it, but I like to also acknowledge like DOA, for example, because it is another small community, and those tight knit communities, like the offline scene, is what keeps it going. You know what I mean? It. I'm sure a lot of people, including myself, we were pretty much freaking out. Yeah, the netcode for Caliber isn't the best, but offline is just what I can't explain it. Like it gives you that drive, and competitive players really they feel inspired and motivated to play offline. Not that you can't do it online either, but it becomes like so many like technicalities and all that. So
yeah, there's like a lot of factors into
yeah, a
it.
lot of factors. Yeah, so my mind, I was worried, and it's hard for a smaller game.
Yeah.
But we've been going strong for the most part, right? So
Absolutely. Like I see not only just the ladies but the community as a whole, when you kind of being my first time entering into the Soul Calibur community with the Queen of the Hill series, all I've heard was just like how amazing the ladies were in like their competitive drive, and there wasn't really anything to spotlight them, right? Because offline had already been away for a good amount of time. And to kind of come into the community and actually see it still thriving, still trying to stay afloat. Many of the ladies trying to enter online as well in these online tournaments like NLBC, and I believe it's Team Deuce's tournaments as well.
Yeah.
And Boominati's tournament too. Like, just to see that there was still like people motivated to actually play the game was not only a sense of comfort for me to see, because it's like, okay, people are still active, they deserve it, like they're keeping it alive, let's give them something. So coming into it and seeing like you and like the other ladies and the other members of the community is just really nice to see, and really amazing, where that community is just, again, still thriving, still pretty much alive given the circumstances of the of the entire fighting game scene. So
for sure.
So when you've been to offline, were there any like challenges that you were kind of like facing, especially as a woman competitor? Were there any like stigmas that you kind of had to like not worry about, but you kind of felt like that pressure while you were competing?
I will say my experience offline has been pretty good for the most part. I know a couple ladies that haven't had the best experience. And usually the stigma is when you see a girl like come up and doing pools or something, right? And you expect them to be like, we can beat her.
Yeah.
I've fought a few people in my early brackets and pools where I just, actually, I'm playing and they're looking at me like, what? I've had I believe at ECT I had one person I'm not, they're gonna remain anonymous, but I had one person get pretty frustrated, and I'm not used to that, and I'm very quiet, I'm reserved, so I felt like maybe they were just upset because they didn't expect it. Then again, Ivy was pretty like busted when like day one anyway, but um, I've had to deal with some guys like having too many high expectations or not taking me seriously, um but it's I know that there are ladies out there that have had worse experiences. For the most part, I felt like equal to everybody else, like no one like gave me special treatment, nothing like that. So that's probably like the only thing that I've ever had is just people kind of like raging like after they lose the set. Yeah.
So would you say to like those people, or into those situations, like what could you tell someone who is sort of like not used to that, like to their opponent kind of reacting that way? You mentioned you're sort of reserved. Like, what is kind of like an advice or a suggestion that you can give to ladies when they come to the offline, or to any newbies, in general? Um, what would you say is like the best thing you could tell them when people act like that to them?
um I would tell them that it can happen. Sometimes people are more expressive of their emotions than others. um I would tell them that as long as you don't feel like there's any threat or anything like that, like you'll be okay. When I was in my first tournament, first major, I had friends with me and I had a couple people that I knew there, and a support system would definitely help when you're going to like your first tourney, your first local. Having somebody there with you, you won't feel alone. And obviously when you start doing your pools, like you're kind of separated from your friends, like
Yeah.
because you're all doing your matches. But I would say the best thing is just have a support system. Don't overthink it. uh, People can be harmless. And if somebody underestimates you, then that's on them, because you gotta win, right? You gotta go in there and talk with your character, as I would say.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's probably what I would say. Support system is important. I know for us females, there's some anxiety and stuff, but having people there would definitely help.
Speaking of anxiety, I know with the first week you played phenomenally. I think if you dropped one game, you didn't even let it phase you. What is like your thought process, and what are some of the things that like kind of keep you calm as well as motivated to not only run through all those games, but to just be like super composed, especially in some tight situations when you're competing?
um I would say so. I already deal with anxiety, um and I've tried to keep that at a minimum. uh it's till this day, even if I'm in an online tournament, I do get anxious. I would always have some water with me, drink some water, stay hydrated. I would always have music. Music calms me down. Any song that you feel like would help you escape. My brother told me, and he had a really good analogy of it, like, well, example of it. He's like, when you fight, when you fight X person, just imagine that you're just fighting anybody, like you normally do. Like just break it down. Don't overthink it. Watch everything slowly. Try not to get overwhelmed when you're about to like lose. It's always important to keep composure. Don't ever let like one round flopping be like, oh my god, I'm not gonna be able to get this. Remember, we have 3 rounds Caliber, as opposed to like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter where it's 2 rounds.
Hmm.
But I honestly just music really helps. Some people prefer not having stuff in their ears when they're playing. Some people prefer music. Um, but I can't really explain it. It's like you're in your calm headspace.
Right.
So that's what I do. It gets slightly easier, but I know for sure with offline, I'm like really nervous.
I totally
So
understand.
yeah, it's like you're like, oh my god, I gotta do this. Oh my god, I dropped that. Like, don't let those small mistakes like detour you from you'll be able to come back. That's always what I have in my thought is, okay, you're able to bring this back. Like making comebacks is like insane. They just happen, they're spontaneous sometimes. So I would honestly tell myself always like, okay, you made a mistake. Just continue. Okay, you noticed they're doing this. Are you gonna condition them and do this and all that stuff? So that's
Yeah.
what goes on in my head.
That's actually really good to know, especially as like a fellow competitor. That's one of the things that, like, again, I'm about, I would say, recently super new still to the scene, and also to the competitive scene too. And one of the biggest things that and I know a lot of newbies also feel is that like anxiety, especially when they're playing and they kind of drop that combo. It's just like overwhelming. It's like, why did you drop the combo? And then next thing you know, you're already done with the match and you've lost. And it's really nice to kind of hear someone who's more experienced and who's already been through or who is going through that. And they're like, you just gotta keep it calm. You just gotta focus on you. It happened. Focus on what's happening now, not what happened 2 seconds ago. So that's really inspiring and actually really motivating for a lot of future competitors. I did want to go back just a little bit too. Now that you've kind of like moved online, how has it kind of like impacted you personally? I know you mentioned that tournament wise, it's a little harder to get into. But did you kind of like, do you see these challenges of online? Do you think that there could be some ways to help solve them and just make the online space better for everyone?
I would say that the best thing to do is one of the things that I've noticed is try not to play ranked all the time. Ranked is a really, 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 really stressful environment. You tend to overthink. You tend to deal with like unnecessary stress. So what makes the online, I know our netcode isn't the best, but a lot of people through discords, through social media, they would ask for 1v1s or we would make lobbies. And having somebody, like even just one person, just do consecutive bouts, like playing, trying to learn matchups, trying to have your muscle memory down with the character. Like I would recommend, that's what a lot of the competitive players do is they play either Parsec or they just do 1v1s.
Okay.
As far as I know, that really does lessen the burden of the online in Soul Calibur. That's what I've heard of, and I've like noticed that it's true. So totally take advantage of like your community Discord, social media, and you might find somebody that can like motivate you, inspire you, or you can teach them yourself, whichever works. So
Okay, that's really good. I know, again, going back to it, it's just one of the ways the community has kept itself alive during the pandemic and while we're still transitioned onto online. Speaking of, again, online, how has like the Queen of the Hill series helped your own online experience? What have you enjoyed so far? What did you expect out of it? And hopefully it's met your expectations?
I've always wanted to participate in a Queen of the Hill, but I didn't play MK. Like I'm not I'm not good enough. And I totally admire you for just like being able to bring that to Caliber. Caliber I feel is a very underrated game series. And Queen of the Hill just I've literally was able to see more female players. Like I didn't even like know some of them were like even competing. I'm just like, oh, I never heard of this person before. Queen of the Hill and Queen of the Ring, like those events I'm like, wow, there's more girls kicking ass. Like, are you kidding me? It's like really, really awesome because sometimes you're just like, oh, I gotta go play with the boys. But it's so motivating. It makes me so happy. Like everyone that played in the first qualifier and the second, and the ones that are coming in for the third, it's just such a good space, and I really appreciate you being able to do that for us. I know MK has some really kick-ass ladies as well. I've like watched a couple. I tried to. I don't really follow MK in depth, but I know about the Queen of the Hill.
Hmm.
So it's super, super awesome, and it makes people show interest to the game, I guess, which is good.
Shows interest to the game. Also highlights you ladies. I know one of the the thought processes when we were creating Queen of the Hill is again, when you're offline, you don't really get to see a lot of the ladies because there's so many people, right? It's a good thing because the scene's alive and you get to connect and network and actually meet people in your community. But on that same side and token, when you're watching stream matches, you don't really see the women that are competing. And if you do, there's it's spread out because of pools and how the brackets are set up, and even commentators as well. I know that when we were looking for commentators, it was a little bit hard to find, but we were able to actually find a couple, and Happy Toki was one of them that I thoroughly enjoyed. I loved how she was commentating in week 2. And right as we started coming out with week 1 and week 2, we had more people actually interested, which was amazing, and more ladies interested. And that's one of the things that we kind of keep in mind with Queen of the Hill, is we highlight the ladies who are in that community and who deserve that spotlight because you guys have worked hard to be where you are. And also to show people, hey, we're alive, come and check us out. It's here. We have amazing competitors. They deserve to be shown, and you guys deserve to meet the new people that you can train or add to your community as well. I know that with a lot of our viewers, and this is actually going to our next question, they include people who are actually new to fighting games and to Soul Calibur itself. And some of them are actually even looking at you and the other competitors as inspiration. So what are your thoughts about that? Can you give them any tips to start for their own journey? And is there anything inspiring or motivating that you can actually let them know that to keep on going?
So it's very appreciated when you have people look up to you and see you as motivation, because I was definitely like that when I got to know of the Ivy players, Ring, Sane, and I believe Kinetic Clash. Those were my inspirations. Ring was the first one because I watched a lot of his Soul Calibur 3 stuff. And as well with what's his name? Link RKC. I always tell people, it's good to have your inspirations and to have your, your rocks, like, oh, this person's what's driving me to get better and play. But I always like to remind people that, it's great to look up to somebody, but you want to also just believe in yourself and give yourself that self-confidence and, look into yourself, have some of that, how you say, like self-love, like not just looking at somebody, but just finding your own self and, proving your own worth to yourself. I totally don't have a problem with people like having their idols and stuff, but everybody is just a normal person in the FGC. Like everybody just wants to be normal people, but of course we have things that people like about us and stuff. But that's what I would say. I would say aside from having your inspirations, definitely like appreciate yourself, love yourself, like know that you can do things, you can be your own person and everything. So that's what I would probably say as someone who's more self-reserved, I guess.
Okay, no, that's actually really important. A lot of people need to be able to do just that, and that's actually how they can grow as a player too, and just kind of like become that next level player that a lot of people are trying to aspire to be. So with that being said, go ahead and shout your show socials. Let people know where we can find you.
Okay, Twitter is at bdirusm, B as in Barney, D as in dog, IRU, S as in Sarah, M as in mammal. And I believe my YouTube is Amy Lionheart. That's been a little bit inactive, but I'm mainly around on Twitter and Discord.
Okay.
So that's probably it.
Alrighty, so with that being said, we're gonna actually go ahead and finish out this interview. I can't wait to see you in the finale. Congrats again, and hopefully the Ivy Queen will win it all.
I'm so excited to play like everybody again. It's so much fun.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Amy. Bye bye.
You're welcome. Bye.